Glam's new video. I'm going to be making jewelry, but since I do it mostly in my hands, I think it's better that you're at a better angle for it. So the first step is measure your wire, because I'm going to be making a choker, and twist it at the end like that. There you go. Like a little noose. To get your measurement for like a choker style necklace, if you're gonna do like a beaded necklace that I'm doing, measure this twice, 2 lengths from one hand to the other of wire. Measure, it's double that, so that you have both sides. You don't need just half of the necklace, you need both halves. And we're working at the top. First step, grab whatever your first bead is. I organized all of mine out so that this would go a bit more smoothly. I'm gonna grab this one first. Grab whatever color you want. You can even use all of the same bead. I put on my first bead. And then the second one, the reason I did 2 wires is so I could surround some with tinier beads. And you only need enough beads to fit around half of the bead. So that's about 5 for mine, but it will change depending on the bead that you use. Okay, 5 on this side too. Then I'm going to grab my next bead in line, which I'm using this one. And then you just pull it through both sides of the bead. So kind of like that. And then just pull the top too. Don't let your wire get tangled on you. It will hit you in the eyeball. Because it does not like you. Anyway, it should look like that, and then you add the other 5, or however many fits around the halfway point of your bead. I know my beads, the full circle, when it comes to the smaller beads that I use, is about 20 in total, so I do it in groups of 5. Now, to make sure that my necklace is more secure, I do intentionally twist at as many points as I can in the piece. And that's just to ensure that it won't come undone. Or if it breaks at any of the midpoints, it won't matter because I can just pretend like it didn't. And it's a lot easier to fix when it's broken at the midpoints. But after you do that, you got one bead that's surrounded in other beads. Now I'm at another midsection, so I'm going to grab my next bead and put it on that, just as is, plain. You could intentionally bead around all of them, just do less twists in between each bead, and then use a tinier bead so that all your bigger beads are surrounded by the smaller beads, but I wanted to try a different style so that it looks a little bit more, I don't know, like this, because I like it. I don't know. I wanted it to be slightly more interesting. Now at the top, grab the tops of the wires. Now it's 5 tiny beads. Tiny, tiny beads. Each side. The reason I'm not being too particular about the beads that I'm putting on it, or not using a single color, is because I wanted there to be a bit more to it. I wanted it to look less simple. Because inherently, I technically could just bead all of them one by one in the most simple way without adding extra beads. But it wouldn't be as reinforced. And or interesting. And my goal is usually interesting, you know? Now I'm gonna add 5 more. And I will just have to keep repeating the same few steps over and over until I'm done. Took me 7 minutes. Oh my god. I just knew this wouldn't take me too long. If you want it to be exactly symmetrical, you could count out all of the smaller beads too. I don't recommend it because it's annoying and not really worth your time to do so. Yeah. Like, as much as I would love to do that, because I'm a perfectionist and I like things to be very symmetrical, I also know for certain nobody would notice. And the only reason I know for certain nobody would notice is the fact that I smudged my makeup halfway through my shift and nobody said anything. They just let it be smudged. I noticed because I went to the bathroom. Look how far I'm getting in. Kind of looks like planets. I will say, this is blue aqua. Nope. Blue turquoise. Usually turquoise is just turquoise, but there's blue turquoise. This is purple tiger's eye. Forgot what this one is. This one's lapis. Forgot what this one is. If I actually took the time to remember what they are. Nope, this one's not lapis. The light blue one isn't. Fuck, what are you? I don't remember. I have work really early in the morning, so I hope to finish this before 12 o'clock. I mean, I have one video posted for each of the days. Up until a certain point. But I thought this is slightly thicker. I think no. Nah. I will say, the reason I chose these colors and this color palette is because of what's in here, which will tell you exactly the theme of this necklace. Let's see if you can guess the theme, based off of the fact that there's blue and gold. I will state there's not a lot of gold because my charm isn't gold. But that wasn't necessarily a choice. It was just, I got the pack of charms a while ago because I liked the shapes. The beads went the wrong way. Two of my beads fell off. Considering it took me 14 minutes to get only like 1/4 of the way through, I'm not looking forward to this. This is just regular turquoise. I have blue turquoise and regular turquoise. I used them both in this piece because I can. I have so many different types of beads and stones. I feel like if I made a website, I'd make a bunch of things in the same style, but I'd make it all different colors, and it would just be miscellaneous colors. Or just like mystery packages, because I don't like making multiples of the exact same thing. It bores me to death and makes me miserable. But also, they only sell so many of certain bead types, which means I would have to buy so many in one single kind of bead, and I just get so bored making the same thing over and over again. Which is why I tend to do custom pieces rather than a bulk batch of the same thing. The only reason I could make so many of the rainbow ones was because technically, as much as I was following a pattern and doing the same thing over and over again, it was a lot easier to make rainbow stuff because I have multiple of different colors, but I don't have a lot of the same color. And I could grab basically just random beads that matched the colors instead of specific beads. And that's just 1/4 of the neck. Neat. Now I'm going to do this over and over again. And over and over again. And over and over again. Though I will say, the closer I get to the end of the wire, the faster this will go, so. And I know it looks like I'm using a lot of wire, but I can assure you, one, this is floral wire, so I was going to use a lot of it anyway. It's also from the dollar store. Floral wire is actually really high quality. It is gentle and flexible enough that it can work on plants, but it's also not possible to really break it with your hands unless you twist it a lot. And even then, it's still just not easy to break. But it's also soft enough to where you can cut it with scissors if you brute force it or sharpen your scissors constantly. Since I sharpen my scissors often because I want them to work well, I don't tend to have many issues with risking breaking my tools. You could also use cutting pliers, but you don't necessarily need cutting pliers for floral wire, which means it's more accessible for beginner artists or jewelry makers to use floral wire as your first kind of wire when it comes to making jewelry. And I recommend it over stretchy string or any kind of string. Because in general, not only is it stronger than string, you can't just cut it easily. Especially if it's twisted together as like a two, you can't cut through that easily. And it's also harder to break. Yes, it does mean that it's not as adjustable and or size inclusive, but you can make it whatever size you want. You just have to know measurements and a little bit of math. But I can promise you, using your body as a tool of measurement is so much easier than you think. If you want to make a bracelet, you do from one hand to the other of the amount of wire, and you can surround every single bead with these. And you'll still have wire left over, but not a lot to where it's too much, and not too little to where you can't finish the bracelet properly. Which is why I specifically do it the way I do. Also, do you like how even and symmetrical that is? It's gonna go the same pattern both ways on both sides. And the same ones are not going to be surrounded by beads. Okay, lapis. I will say the lapis beads that I have a slight gold sheen to them. No, don't fall. This is gorgeous. I'm really proud of the design that I chose. I mean, I created it, of course it's awesome. I'm joking, by the way. Technically I thought of it, but I'm using elements of things I've saw online before. I never really stayed long enough to watch the concept being done properly, but I did watch enough to see the idea behind it and use elements of it when creating ideas. Technically, nothing in the world is 100% unique. We're all just following the same patterns that our ancestors created before, over and over again. Like when they found that underwater playground from so long ago that they didn't even think it was possible that humans would exist at that time. But there's a reason we have cities, like stories about cities like Atlantis. Clearly these places existed, and they're told to be extremely advanced. Have people always thought these stories were fake? And now science is finally proving them to be true? Imagine there was a human-type species that was also part fish. I mean, there's people now that can hold their breath for hours under the water. I'm saying hours, but I don't necessarily mean that. But for a very long time. Like, there's full tribes of people who can just hold their breath for a super long time. Like seals. And technically, if you train yourself long enough, you can hold your breath for a very long time. Now that I'm thinking about it, I need a center bead. Never thought about that. I got an idea. I don't necessarily know if my idea will work, but I got an idea. So the idea I had so that I could keep the symmetry is I'm gonna try to do one of the circle things, but without a bead in the center, but instead 5 smaller beads. So it looks kind of like an eye, so it matches the charm anyway. So we'll do 5, bring it down. And then I'm going to grab 5 more beads on this. I'm actually being very particular of which beads I grab for this. I grabbed all gold ones, because I know my golden beads are more likely to be able to hold 2 pieces of wire, while not all of my So it's kind of looking like that so far. And now I'm going to add 5 more. Then I close it, and it kind of looks like an eyeball. I don't like this white bead. I'm gonna grab a bigger bead. There we go. Can you guess which bead is coming next? That's right. Blue turquoise. Okay, back to the top. When I say the shorter it gets, the easier it gets. I meant it. It does. It does genuinely get easier the farther and closer you get to the end. And not just because you did it for so long, it's because you have less to work with. So it just doesn't take so long to find the end. It's a lot of just repeating the same pattern over and over again. I recommend putting your beads out on like trays or in something when you do this, as it does genuinely make it easier if everything is just out and sorted in front of you. No. No, no, no. I mean, it's getting long. I mean, I was being honest when I said it does get easier and quicker the farther along you get. Dun, 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 dun. know, something I realized is I feel like I could fix so many people's relationships if they just, like, let me talk to them from both sides. Because I don't take sides. I see facts, I see how things work, and I try to come up with solutions. Or tell them why doing the bare minimum doesn't fully relieve a burden amongst the relationship. Sometimes relationships aren't fixable because both sides aren't really willing to fight to fix the relationship. But if you are willing to fight to fix the relationship, it's possible for other people to tell you how. And it's very important to listen to others' advice when you're struggling to come up with an idea, or to be honest with yourself and the one you love. But it's very important to be honest. Relationships are built on love and trust. And if you can trust a person with anything, it would have to be your spouse to trust with everything. Sometimes I can be wise. I've been told when I was younger that I'm quite wise for my age. I'm not stupid, but I am naive. But that's because I'm young, and I believe there's good in everyone. Which, yeah, is naive. Because the truth behind that is not everyone's willing to be good. Because it's not fun. Oh my goodness. I finished. Oh my. I'm gonna trim this a little bit shorter. Let me get my pliers. I got pliers. Now I'm gonna wrap it in like a bit of a circle, and I'm gonna just wrap it around itself. Okay. Now I'm gonna round it out a little bit. I'm gonna trim off the excess really close and then stamp it down quite close to the base. I will show you that it does fit my neck. Almost a little bit too big, but that's okay. Now I'm going to show you the pieces I'm going to add to it. Did you guess that it was going to be slightly Egyptian? Probably not. I don't know anyone. I wouldn't expect anyone to guess that from any of this. Immediately drops it. I know it's been an hour and then I should probably end it and just make the next video quite short, but I don't want to. I'm very lazy. did it once, and then I was just like, you know what, never again. And then I'm just like, okay. I think I have exactly the amount of pieces that I wanted. Technically, if I was smart, I would have just attached it at the beginning. But I'm not that intelligent. But now I'm gonna do this. I will say, out of all of the Eurovision songs that I heard for this year that were posted, I gotta say, like, Ireland's the best. Which is a shame, because it's not even gonna be on, like, the main list. Because Israel was voted for instead. Which is, there's nothing against them. They could have both made it, but no. I'm gonna grab something that I forgot. If you're wondering what I forgot to grab, it's little eye hooks that I can screw into the tops of the bottles so that they stay. Now I'm gonna attach this out here. I'm gonna grab a different pair of pliers, because you know what, that might work. Gorgeous. The thing about this one is I made it big enough to where I think I can wear it as a headpiece. Oh my god, I did. Technically, if I did my hair right, I'd probably separate these more farther back though, but it's really cool. Anyway, peace, love, have a good night my fab fans, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!